Welcome back, and we've finally reached the last hexagon, and we're going to do the spider. We're going to start off with the cobweb using standard sewing cotton. If you like, you can draw lines. I haven't, so we'll see how we go, but I have drawn the spider on beforehand, so just to guide me, and that's going to mainly be done in bullion knots. Do a few stitches on the back to start in your stem stitch here, and then come up at one corner and simply go down in the opposite corner, and then you can weave your thread through at the back to the next corner, and that'll make sure that this isn't too loose, and then cross it over. So weave again at the back, come up right in the corner, doesn't matter if you pierce your stem stitch, and go over like that. So they should all cross in the centre. And now we're going to find the centre, and you can do this by eye really, unless you've drawn lines, and come up in the centre of one of the lines of the hexagon. And then simply cross over again to the other side. Weave at the back, and then come up at the next one. It's about halfway. And go across. And now the final one. And straight across. So hopefully all your threads will meet in the centre. I'm just going to secure my thread at the back before I go any further. So do a few stitches at the back. And having secured your thread at the back, then come up to the left of any of these lines if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you'll come up to the right. So as a right-hander, I've come up to the left, and I'm going to be stitching anti-clockwise. And we're just going to be doing lines around the edge here in the shape of the hexagon. So you want to do a little back stitch. So take your needle down to the right of the next line and then up on the left. Now it doesn't matter whether you come up to the bottom of that stitch or the top, and that's because if you're probably better doing a mixture of both, because if you always do it at the top, you'll find you get further and further away from the right line. So let's just take a stitch down to the right and come up on the left of that line. It's just to anchor it. Again to the right, and then come up on the left. And just always be conscious of where you are in terms of how far you are from the stem stitch outline. One of the reasons that we finished off at the back when we'd done these initial lines was that if you then need to take this out because you're not happy with your lines, then you haven't got to do the whole lot again. So that's a good idea. Bit of fluff from my bee there. This is almost a stem stitched action, so you just want to do it so that you secure these lines down. And you can keep turning your work around. As I said earlier, you can draw lines if you prefer beforehand. I'm just risking it without. So the final one just goes over that line where you started. And now we're going to come up a little way above and do that all again. And now one more, just at the top here. Now if you feel you need to catch any of these in place, you can do. I'm just going to leave it like that, I think. And now we're going to move on to the spider itself. We're going to start the spider by doing a number of just one wrap French knots inside the body shape. So all very close together. So I'm just doing, I don't know, 8 or 9, something like that. Very close together, so we don't want to see any fabric. I think that will do. And then just for the head, I'm going to do a few straight stitches, almost satin stitch. Well, it is satin stitch really, just to cover the little shape. Like that. Just going to put another French knot there. You can add more if you want to later. The legs are all done in bullion knots. So to do a bullion knot, come up where you want the knot to start and go down where you want it to finish. And don't pull your thread all the way through. And then bring your needle up in the same place that you originally came up. And now we're going to wrap the thread anti-clockwise around the needle. So keep it in the fabric, so it's almost like a maypole standing up straight. If you do have a longer needle, that can be useful. I'm just using my crewel needle. I'm going to wrap about 20 times, but I'm not counting. And then just see if your wraps are about leg length. I actually want them a little bit longer, so a few more wraps than you think you need. So I'm now pulling my thread through, and then arrange your wraps on the thread, and then take a stitch down to anchor the leg. And it's a little bit curved, which is what we want. And then again, come up where you want to start and go down. Let's have a look where you want it to finish, and then come up at the start again. Don't pull it all the way through, and wrap around anti-clockwise. Again, I'm not really counting. Hold the wraps onto your needle. They shouldn't be too tight so that the needle goes through quite easily. And then arrange the wraps on the thread and take a stitch down. Now you can, if you need to, you can actually anchor the thread to put the legs exactly where you want them. So for example, you can do that very loose stitch like that, so it looks like it's part of the knot. You might not need to do that with all of them. Now let me just see if I can show left-handers. So if you're left-handed, you'll do the same thing. Come up where you want it to start and down where you want the knot to finish. Don't pull all the way through. Come back up to the start. And then with your right hand, now you're wrapping clockwise. Some of the legs are shorter. Now hold it and pull through with your left. Some of the legs are shorter, so you'll do less wraps. And then go down. You can arrange the legs how you want them when you've done all your knots. You'll probably only be able to do 4 or 5 with one thread. They take up a lot of thread. So again, for right-handers, hold the wraps on the needle and pull through. Arrange them on your needle, on your thread rather, and take a stitch down. Okay, so I'm going to do the other 4 and then we'll see what they look like. So here's my spider. Now I've found that I've anchored and sort of altered the shape of some of the legs, but not all. So I'm putting a stitch in there. And but some of them sort of come up in the air a little bit because I've purposely done them too big for the space, and I think that's quite nice with the spider, that one as well. So you know, rearrange them how you wish. it is actually quite hard to get them exactly right. So if you do your stitch and then just put a couple of stitches in over the top very loosely, try and go in and out of the same hole so that it doesn't look like a stitch, it looks part of the knot. And then what you can do is, if you feel you need to, you can make the body a bit bigger, so you can add some more French knots on top. It's entirely up to you. I think it's okay really, but that's what you can do. So that's your finished spider. Well done on completing the last insect. There's just one more video to watch, and that's all about finishing off your work. So don't miss it. I'll see you there.